You're listening to the All Systems Go podcast, the show that teaches you everything you need to know to put your business on autopilot. Learn how to deploy automated marketing and sales systems in your business the right way with your host, the professor of automation himself and founder of Automation Bridge, Chris Davis.
Welcome to the All Systems Go podcast. I'm your host, Chris L. Davis, the founder and chief automation officer of Automation Bridge, the place online to learn about small business marketing and sales automation, where we focus on not just turning digital marketing professionals into automation service providers, but equipping them with the tutelage, the acumen, the curriculum, the resources, the community to become an automation service provider. And if you like to become one or find out more about our automation packages, go to allsystemsgopodcast.com. If you're new to the podcast, make sure you subscribe and share. At the time of recording this, the All Systems Go podcast is free to subscribe to. So you can find this show on all main podcasting apps like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can find us on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there. If you're new to the podcast, let me first say welcome. I want you to listen to this episode in its entirety before you subscribe so you know just what you're getting into. But for those of you who have been listening and are not subscribed, please do so. If you haven't left a 5-star rating and review, it would be greatly appreciated if you do that as well. If for whatever reason you're having troubles leaving a review in the platform that you're listening to this podcast in, we've got you covered. automationbridge.com/review, and we'll take care of it for you. Okay. This episode, I get to have an open conversation with a co-founder I had the privilege to personally work with to scale their e-commerce business with automated email marketing. And a pleasure would be an understatement, but I had the joy of meeting Eric while I was conducting a live workshop. And when the opportunity presented itself to jump on board and help, I did. And I'm so glad I did, as the results and the relationship was well worth it. You'll learn about it in the podcast. But as the co-founder and VP of marketing, Eric oversees GiddyUp's global brand marketing and positioning strategy. Since 2013, they've launched over 150 direct-to-consumer brands. They've acquired millions of customers across the globe and profitably driven $1 billion plus in sales for their brand and partners on 100% commission only. It is an amazing business model. How they've done it is homage to just effective marketing, effective strategic marketing where you get paid to perform. I absolutely love it. When I heard about the model, I was like, this is amazing. That's my whole career has always been paid to perform. So it resonated with me, the work that we were able to accomplish. You all will hear it in this episode. So let me not belabor it anymore. Enjoy the conversation between Eric and I. Eric, welcome to the podcast. A long time coming. We've both been looking forward to it. How you doing, man?
Dude, so great. Great to be here, man. It's been way too long. I'm just excited for the conversation and to chat with you again, man.
Yeah. So listeners, you're in for a treat. Eric and I work together closely and doing real deep marketing. So some of the conversations that we've had, Eric, I think if you could record some of the meetings that we've had and even just some of our side conversations, it's probably like a vault of just probably millions and millions of marketing acumen and, all types of stuff, right? So tell our listeners, tell us about you as the co-founder, and I want you to touch on both businesses that you guys have, or let me say GiddyUp primarily, and then the My Daily Discovery piece. Let us know again a little bit about you in those two businesses.
Yeah, sure. So GiddyUp is a partner marketing network and a performance platform. And so what we do is we help create performance partnerships between innovative direct-to-consumer brands and some of the top marketers around the world. And everything is done in a partnership performance basis. So, kind of what that means is like, as a brand, normally when you're focused on customer acquisition and growing your business, the traditional model is normally either doing it yourself, building a team, which can be really expensive and risky, or you go with an agency and you're paying retainers, you're paying upfront fees or percentage of spend, and there's just a lot of risk associated with that, mostly because the models are just really they're misaligned in terms of the incentives, right? Like if you're paying someone to spend more, they're more than likely going to spend more instead of trying to figure out how to be more profitable. But also, one of the things that we realized when we were coming into the business is that you're really only working with one brain. And whether that's like your team, who's trying to figure out how to create content and funnels to scale your business, or an agency, it's really hard to crack the code with all the variables and all the different ways that you can market. Yeah. And so what we see is a much more decentralized and democratized ecosystem for marketing that creates win-wins for both sides. So the way that our model works is, we work with direct-to-consumer innovative brands. We invest all of our time, all of our capital into building everything they need to acquire customers online. They don't pay for anything up front. And then we connect them with these marketers who spend their own time, their own capital, buying media, figuring out all the best angles, all the best landing pages, the best offers, and driving traffic to the funnels we build, and only get paid for the sales that they drive. And so, it's a really amazing model because you're working with experts who are specifically experienced in channels like YouTube. That's all they do. Yeah. Or native advertising or this and that. And also globally, like people that are in Italy that know how to market to Italy on Facebook. And it's just an incredible model because it's highly scalable. It's completely on performance, zero risk. And it's a beautiful thing in our experience to kind of see what these two groups of people can do together when the incentives are aligned and they both have the tools to be successul. So absolutely, that's really what we're focused on, at GiddyUp, is how do we scale performance partnerships? We believe that's the future of advertising. Is creating that. And then, this probably about a year and a half ago, we created a direct-to-consumer property called My Daily Discovery. And really that was our focus on how to create, how to inspire and empower people to live a little better, and doing that through a combination of content and commerce. And so we really started off with email, and that's where, you and I and the team started working together. Yes. But really focused on how do you create an amazing, highly valuable content that gets people excited about opening your email. Not like every day I see this email come in my inbox and it's just another promotion and I start to ignore it over time, or it's not personalized to me. We took a very methodical approach of saying, hey, we don't want to kind of go one to many. We want to figure out how do we build a system, an automated system, to really understand what people want, what they're resonating with, what they're engaging with, and create these flows that give them the most value possible, and obviously leverage all of the commerce opportunities that we have to kind of fuel the entire thing. And so those are the two areas of our business. And we're just really excited about growing both of them, man.
Yeah, and it's really great. And I want to paint the picture for you all on just how amazing the model is. So I've got front row seat. I had a front row seat and backstage access to the model. Been able to sit down with Eric and Topher, one of the other co-founders, and really map it out. And just imagine if you had a product, an idea, and you were able to at least get it in some form of production right there. Just when you think like, yes, I've done it, you're really just getting started. Because what is a product without consumers to consume the product, right? So to come up with the model to where you guys have the marketing force from advertising to conversion of that advertising to help that person, that business owner say, okay, I want to get this out to as many people as possible. Don't have a clue where to start, but I know this is a good product. And GiddyUp comes and says, hey, look, we're aligned. That is a good product. And we're going to partner with you. We're going to take care of your landing. Just let's listen to this, everybody. We're going to take care of your landing page, optimized landing page, your spend. You heard Eric say they've got marketers in all places of the world, so that if you're marketing into us in a certain country, there's a marketer in that country, right, that can market. And it just brings in such a power, and relieves such a load from that entrepreneur that was just like, whoa, I didn't realize I was going to have to do all of that after I created my product to start making money. And I love it, right? Man.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing too, is there's so much to actually doing the product and the brand side, right? Not only coming up with the idea, which took a lot of time and effort and, just massaging in terms of getting it to the final place. Then obviously, like, you need to launch the business and you need to kind of have all the infrastructure in place in terms of being able to manufacture it, inventory management, customer support, logistics.
Yes.
And that is a full-time role. And what I see a lot of times is people can't do both. And so they either try to do it and they fail because they're spread thin across so many different areas, or they're not marketers, but they're trying to be, or they're trying to work with agencies, but they don't understand really what they're doing. And they're paying them a lot of money on the upfront. And a lot of these companies and contractors on the marketing side, I mean, it's unfortunate to say, but a lot of people give a lot of big promises and produce very little results. And it's just, I think it's because the model is just kind of completely wrong. And I think, when you can work with partners, people that look at your business and say, we want to partner with you. We don't want you as a client. We don't want you as a vendor, but it's a partnership. When we win, you win, and vice versa. Those are the things that can kind of create some pretty magical stuff when it comes to the distribution of that said product. And again, it's just having people that have aligned incentives with the things that matter to them also matter to you. And that's where, there's just an amazing symbiotic relationship that can produce amazing results.
Yeah. And I want to say this too, you don't get there without very strategic minds at the founder level, right? And I want to give insight to everybody on how we met. I was doing a training, and Eric, for me to describe Eric as a co-founder would be somebody who's got an eye for talent and a heart to engage in the most authentic way to create a win-win situation by any means possible, which really mirrors GiddyUp, right? You're creating all of these win-win scenarios. So a lot of founders that you meet, especially, let me just speak in my personal experience and let you all know listening, a lot of founders from afar are just great. Right? The from afar founders, you never meet them. Maybe you shake their hand at an event or something like that. And you're like, that's a great founder. But the true test of their leadership and their mettle, as a founder becomes when that proximity gets closer and closer and closer. And that's where you'll see a lot of those lofty ideas and perceptions of founders fail. Because you start to see that, wait a minute, they're not as strong of a leader as they need to be. They don't really care about people. They're very transactional. It's process over people, not people over process. So as we began to work together more and more, you passed the proximity test, right? The closer we engaged, it was just like, man, you weren't just a hard driver for goals. You would create these stretch goals that even you and I would think like, man, you think that's possible? Right? And it's just like, well, if we think it's possible, then it needs to be bigger. Right. So you had that, but you also had the ability to not lose touch with the personal side of it, the leadership piece that's like, okay, I know that if you're in your best head state, I'm going to get the most out of you. I'm going to get your best. And how can I create that environment? And I'll say this another thing to say about you that I've learned as a founder is you're not afraid to be the quote unquote dumbest. Let me put it like this. You're not afraid to not be the smartest person in the room. Let me do that. So many times when we were working together, you're like, hey, let's bring on help, right? Let's bring on somebody that knows this area and this. And that's just so rare because a lot of times people have that ego and that pride. So just wanted to let everybody know the type of founder who's on the call today. And I want to transition into our work. So we got connected because the company was at a state where you all wanted to take advantage of email in a more profitable means. So for all of the e-commerce brands out there, this is going to be important for you to listen to. Eric, if you take a minute and just talk about what your initial intention was when you looked for a CRM and what your initial aim and desired results were in the very beginning before we connected.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, so for us, we didn't know what we didn't know. In the beginning, all we knew is we had a lot of customers. We had a lot of people that were craving things, and we weren't taking advantage of it at all, just because it wasn't the core focus of our business. But we knew that it was valuable. Like, we know how powerful email is, and we know how powerful or how important customer lifetime value is, but we were so focused on other areas of the business that we weren't able to allocate kind of the resources or the mind share to doing that, until it was to the point where I was like, man, we can't ignore this anymore. We need to go, head on. And so really for me, I wanted to create something that I knew the importance of not just slamming a list, with promotion after promotion after promotion. That we wanted to add value to these customers. We wanted to create the highest engagement, possible, and get people really stoked about the brand and the products and the mission and the vision. I really, in the beginning, I was just thinking about, all right, how do we connect these things? How do we develop content that does inspire people, that empowers them, that excites them, and gets them to buy a ton of products, at the same time. And that was really kind of my goal. Like, I've been very strong on the creative side. I understand, consumer psychology. I understand kind of what moves people to act, just coming from the direct response kind of background. But really all I knew is I needed to make sure that I had good deliverability. I needed to make sure that, I wasn't going, our metrics weren't going crazy in terms of spam rates and unsubscribe rates. And so a lot of just like the core health metrics that, that were most critical to the longevity of the campaign. And in the back of my head, I'm like, also, man, segmentation, things like that would be amazing, right? Having a much more personalized experience. But I had no idea how we were going to go get that done. And email was a new channel to me because I've spent so much time on paid channels, like Facebook and YouTube and native channels and so forth. And so ended up, we were on Active Campaign, saw that there was some kind of class happening in Miami, Florida, and attempted to learn more. And I was absolutely blown away by the opportunity on how you can actually leverage automation to do so much of the heavy lifting to ensure that you're getting incredible results on the back end. And it's all measurable, and it's all it allows the system to do the hard work, where you have the talented people to do the creative strategic work. And when it works together, man, it's literally like music, so that was kind of like the before, and then opened my eyes and I was like, all right, I need to move in this direction. How do I make that happen? I got to go talk to Chris.
Yes. And I wanted Eric to share that, because so many of you are in that position that you may have a strong front end and you're trying to figure out, how do I get more on the back end? How do I capitalize more? And furthermore, with all of the marketers that love the annual post of email is dead, email is not. Email is very much alive. So when I got the opportunity, it was such a challenge, Eric. I was like, ooh, this is very intriguing to me, right? Because usually people are front end focused. How can I use email on the front end to get more customers? But that was already a checkbox. There are marketing partners bringing in the customers. So now it's all back end. How do we get more out of these customers? And then an added piece to the challenge is there's no technically there's no storefront. It's not, like a place where people can go and just shop. So I'm like, ooh, just keep stacking the challenge, right? And I'm the type of person that responds really well to those challenges. So we began to engage and do our work together. And I have to say this, one thing that you allowed, Eric, that I think more business owners and founders need to just couple into their expectation is you gave us a runway to truly lay out a plan, right? Like, I never felt like you were not valuing planning. right? And that gave me the opportunity to not just create the written documents, but also the charts, right? The visual charts to communicate exactly what we're doing and everything, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that is, I mean, it's mistakes that I've made in the past. And I also see a lot of founders or, senior executives make the same kind of mistake, which is you bring in amazingly smart people, hungry people, dedicated people. And then you think to yourself, well, in order to get this person off, I have to give them this plan. I have to create the processes so they know what they're doing so they can come in and act. And it's completely backwards. You're bringing in smart people with experience. You just need to support them, give them the information so that they can go in and take your high level vision and bring it to life through their own vision and bring it to you and say, here's what I'm thinking, because they're coming in with a fresh perspective. You also want them to own the process, to believe in what we're doing. And you're there to kind of make sure that there's guardrails, that like, we're not going to fall off a cliff based on your own experience. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, trusting your people, trusting and empowering them to go in and bring, the vision to life through their own area and what they're doing is the only real way to scale and to keep talented people happy and excited and driven. And so I just had it was an amazing experience with you personally because of how much of a deep thinker you are and how you think like you're an engineer, right?
Yeah.
So like the way your mind works is so fascinating where like I'm talking, me and Topher are very vision focused, like up in the clouds, like talking about all these crazy marketing campaigns. And as we're talking, you're just drawing on the whiteboard and you're building a machine. You're building a machine as we're talking. And I'm like, oh man, like, yes, this is exactly how it works. And like, so it's just really cool. And I think that's the power of combining, people that are complementary and giving the opportunity and the freedom to allow someone to use their mind to craft it in a way that makes sense to them and makes sense to you so that they can go execute at the highest level possible, So.
And it was great for me, at the time I was coming out of a we'll say a professional relationship, right? Coming out of one that I would say was fairly abusive, and not in terms of like physical, but just like you can be boxed in, right? And not unleashed to be able to really let your brain go and have that level of freedom. So as you guys are in the clouds and I'm able to start pulling things down and make them visual and concretize them, it did so much because one, it allowed us to identify a realistic scope. It was like, look at all of these things we could do. These are some of the ways we could execute. It's just like, well, let's scale back a little bit, let's focus on this and do that. And once we got the planning phase over, and I'll say this to everybody listening that wants to work for a company or is working for one, you can be generating revenue while you're planning. Planning it's not a like a serial process where we've got to do planning, then we got to go make money. No. You're planning and you're executing while you're planning. But essentially what we did is that first quarter that we dedicated to planning was positioning us for the next quarter, but also getting some baseline data, right? And as we were collecting that baseline data, it was being proven by generating some revenue so that now next quarter, because we did quarterly planning, and we made sure that the projections were not lofty. They were based on the data that we collected off the previous plan to get an understanding of what to expect going forward. So when we say things like double the revenue every quarter or, 10x, whatever, there's a huge planning effort in there. And I would love to just be like, hey, guys, I talked to them for 1 hour and I came up with the solution and we put the solution in place and money just kept coming out. Right. That plan allowed us to identify the people, the external people and internal people that we needed in place. It helped us get an idea of the level of effort. So now everybody on the team is aligned to what we're executing. Now it gets fun because we don't have the confusion in the way when we say, hey, look, we see a huge opportunity with segmentation. We've got all these leads. We're only emailing maybe 10 to 20% of them, which, right, I created the dashboard and we could see it. week over week, we were measuring these things and looking at our weekly meeting like, wait a minute, what about these other leads? How do we start sending emails to these other leads? Which then opened up segmentation and the importance of really not just understanding who's who. And we had data relative to what they purchased to start, but then you start to talk about recency and frequency. And just when you add those three, Eric, right? Product purchase, recency, and frequency, that's really enough to start laying your strong foundation for segmentation so that your emails can at a minimum start getting delivered, and read and opened, right?
I think that's a good point because, that is, when I first started thinking about segmentation, again, just as like a marketer, I'm like, oh, we could be, tracking everything that they click on and everything that they do and everything on the site.
Yeah.
You start creating this crazy web of stuff that can feel overwhelming. And if you don't have the resources or the people to actually go execute that, they're like, well, what else are we going to do? But it's really like, I call it like the Tim Duncan of marketing, right? It's like Mr. Fundamentals, and it's like fundamentals of automation and segmentation, which is really what you said. Is like everybody has that information, especially if you're in the e-commerce world, right? Yeah. Like you have what people are buying, you have how often they're opening your emails, and what is their flow in terms of like how new of a customer are they, how long have they experienced your content, and being able to segment them based on that behavior alone, which is much more like there's a lot to it, but it's much more simplistic and focused. You can see some incredible results. I mean, our deliverability go through the roof, right? Where at first our open rates were like 20%, which is good, or maybe it was like actually it started at like 15%.
Yeah, it was lower. Yeah.
And I think we ended at like 38%.
Yes.
Now we're still
just for context, everybody, we're not talking about a small database of 10,000 customers. We're not talking about, we're talking 250,000 and above database size of emailing. So it's hard.
Buyers,
right? Yeah. It's hard to maintain a strong open rates when your database starts to grow in the 250,000 and beyond.
Yeah. And I think that just comes down to, not treating everybody exactly the same, even though that is the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
But I think there's just some simple things that you could do in terms of the people that have opened in the last 30 days, like people that have purchased in the last 30 days, like all these things are actually easier than ever to implement now, even through some of the tools that are available to marketers, right?
Yeah.
When you want to go deeper and you want to have a structure, it's good to make sure you have, number one, have that plan ahead of time, map some things out, make sure you understand what your goals are, what business questions are you trying to answer. But really, like in 2021, there's no excuse to do that, to not do that level of segmentation. And I've seen firsthand just the power. I mean, so many marketers and business people are leaving crazy amounts of money on the table by not doing any level of segmentation. It boggles my mind. I mean, I get it because I was in that situation, but now it's just like, man, there's so much information out there and so much proof. It's like, you have to be there.
Yeah. And that's what I loved about what I love about our journey together was that it was exploratory for the both of us, honestly, because I'd done deep segmentation in other business settings. So I knew it worked, but I'm always surprised at how well it works depending on the business state as well. So the first time I got to be able to go in deep with the e-commerce company was with you all. So as I just remember the calls, man, and the congratulatory meetings and everything, as we set these stretch goals of, hey, we did this amount this quarter. What if we double it? And what if you double it? And if you keep doubling quarter over quarter, that number gets big quick, right?
Yeah.
And making those shifts. But I'll tell you this, segmentation was the key in so many ways. And I think we were definitely it's definitely not just an easy and straightforward approach when you go deep funnel, right? Because like you said, there were all kinds of indicators that we could have been using. And you were on the record for saying, hey, look, I know that there's a whole lot of stuff, but let's just focus on the main thing, right? So, which was easy because some founders just get up there, hey, we could do this and do that. Are we measuring everything? So you were aware, yes, all of it's possible, but Chris, just if we stick to the main thing, I'm good with that. Right. So we were able to do that.
That can get you the majority of the way. Again, it's the fundamentals, right? Yep. And it's easy to get fancy and try to do a bunch of stuff. But if you're not doing the basics right, it's going to impact you every which way down the funnel. And so I appreciated that about you as well, which is like you took this approach where it's like you are an advanced automation marketer, right? Like, you know how to do all the fancy stuff. You're like dribbling crazy between your legs, throwing it over the back, alley-ooping, like you can do it all. But you're like, no, man, let's focus on dribbling with two hands. We got to be, ambidextrous. And I think that's so smart and just super powerful. And it's good to take a step back and say, don't worry about all the noise out here. What are the metrics that truly matter to our success? Let's get good at analyzing those. Let's see those improve over time. Let's focus on those. And that's how we'll see wins. But if we're trying to do so much at the same time, everything hurts as a process, And I think the other thing is just measuring, having clear KPIs that you're tracking and you're being able to measure. And then also, I'm interested in your feedback too on this. Like, we also implemented OKRs, right? Which is like an amazing system for setting clear objectives, but then key results that are specific and measurable, and allows us to say, hey, when we complete all of these, we're going to hit our objective. And it allowed us to stay focused, which is kind of like, I wouldn't say automation at all, but it's like it's similar just on the business side in terms of a very focused approach and making sure that we're measuring the most important things and we're focused on the most important things.
Yeah. Now I would say this, I think we made the biggest jump in terms of profitability when we implemented the OKRs, right? Because it just made that planning process easier. It was easier to get the entire team aligned with what's going on and where they played a part, and more so who's responsible for what. Right. So that everybody had ownership. That's the biggest piece is, when you're scaling and there's the system is moving, if there's one little shake and there's questionable ownership, that little bitty shake starts to propagate through the system. And before you know it, that shake is now impacting the most critical area of the business. So knowing that, hey, look, your screw's shaking a little bit over there. Right. And now it's tightened up. Not an issue. Right. And we're able to move. And I'll say this, I want to bring up some technology for a minute. In engagement, segmentation and engagement tracking can be done in pretty much any platform, everybody. Depending on the platform, it may be harder and you may need to use other tools. We were using ActiveCampaign, so I knew how to use the automations, how to use custom fields, do some date time stamping, and then some advanced searches for people who had done things within particular dates. So really advanced stuff. And I say that to say, if you're at the level, I said 250,000 customers or higher, and you're trying to segment to get more engagement, it's going to take beyond the basics. Okay. I just want to preface that it's going to take beyond the basics. Automation to create those segments, automation to track the engagement, and then even just the logical mind to create the segment. Because we had some advanced segments, right? It was like 4 cases if they've done this, and if they've done this, and if they've done these. And those things had to be tested extensively. I'm on the record. I've spent up to 45 minutes building out a segment for us to mail. Now, let me ask everybody listening, Chris, why would you spend 45 minutes on doing that? Once we had it, Eric, once we had it.
Autopilot.
Yeah. Oh, it was beautiful, man. It was beautiful. But I like to just give people insight, because I don't want them to hear about the big success. And I'll let you share whatever you can and what you're comfortable with on the type of growth that we were able to achieve. But it was a major success. And the workings of that, yes, automation played a part, but look at how we had to leverage automation. Building out a very complex segment, it's not sexy. And it gets confusing. Your brain hurts. You're like, well, should this be and or? We've had Slack conversations. Remember, it's like, well, maybe if we switch this and to or, So I just wanted to give people insight on when you go deep funnel and you're trying to identify how to just laser sharp with your targeting and your messaging, this is the level of effort that's required, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it can feel overwhelming at first, especially if your mind doesn't think that way. But it's logical in the sense where if you put in the time, you can definitely understand it. And the reason why I think you also spent so much time on it was not necessarily just the building of it all, but the testing. Because if you go in and you're not paying attention to details and you're not, looking at the and versus the or in every part of the thing, like it will blow up. The one small like issue, like coding, right? You have one bracket that's not closed and the whole thing is broken. You got to go through and really do it. So doing it right, making sure you have someone that you trust that can come in and implement it for you. But I think the other thing, right, and I think the power was that we didn't just do automation for automation purposes, right? We did it to meet a specific business objective or a question that we were trying to answer or something that we were trying to, a metric that we were trying to move the needle on in a positive way. And then we did that. And then we looked very closely at how that was being impacted by that automation. And I think it's easy to say in this world of, everyone talking about automation or whatever, this and that, like to get lost in just doing it because it's expected or it's the cool thing to do or whatever else, and not having the planning that says, hey, we're doing this for this reason. And we're actually going to, track that and make sure things are moving in a positive direction. And if not, what do we need to tweak? What do we need to go back and update? But yeah, it is a powerful thing. And also just, I know I keep reiterating this, but again, like it is complex as you go into the more deeper automations, but you didn't start there. We didn't start off building that crazy thing. We started off with the basics because that's like, it's like everything else, right? It's like, and again, we talk a lot about basketball, right? The way that I think about it is like, it's like tying your shoelaces, right? Like if you don't tie your shoelaces properly, so many bad things can happen as a result of that. You go and sprain your ankle, you're tripping over, you injure somebody else. Like it all starts with your shoelaces, man. And that's where I think that it's like, it's not the sexy thing to do, but it's so critical. It's like the foundation of your home.
I love that.
And then once you do that, man, the stuff that you do when you come in and work your magic and start building more complex plays and systems and all these things, like it's because you did the bottom part so effectively that you're able to do that. Because if not, it would be a cluster. Like I would be going to be like, what the hell is happening? And what is the reason for it? It's not just because of this, but maybe there's issues everywhere in the system. And so yeah, man, it is a beast of a thing. But man, it's powerful because when you get it right, you start seeing compounding results over time that you could have never believed were possible without continuing to add bandwidth and resources. Where when you marry automation with really smart people, you can keep a lean team and still start growing at rates that are unprecedented. I think that's what we experienced too, right?
Absolutely.
We had a very small team, for the amount of growth and revenue and work that we were doing. And it's because we really planned and automated in a very strategic way,
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So in our last few moments, man, I know you've got to take off and I want to be respectful of my listeners' time. Share whatever you're comfortable with, Eric, in terms of the type of growth, whether it's leads, revenue, whatever the case is that you experienced with some of with the work that we're able to do together, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So it started off as, we were getting customers coming in. We had a lot of like older customers that, we hadn't engaged with in a while, but, we're in a really unique position and where acquisition is something that we focus heavily on. So we had a lot of new customers coming in. I think at first, we didn't really know, this is pre-Chris. We really didn't know what we were doing. We were trying to figure it out. We were generating revenue because these are buyers, but our spam rates, our unsubscribe rates, like our deliverability, all the things that matter for the long term, just were not in a place to scale. We ran into a bunch of issues. It was causing a lot of work and time. But from there, I think we were able to grow in each of the most critical areas, which is like, now in terms of our list, we're over 500,000, subscribers that are super active. Our open rates are, in some segments as high as 45%.
Love it, man.
Click-through rates over 10%, unsubscribes under 0.5%, spam rates under 0.01%, like in an amazing spot. And we're still as lean of a team as we've ever been. We're just continuing to grow. Like what we really pay attention to is, we have like overall revenue goals, but really we look at our revenue per open and our revenue per subscriber.
Yep.
And we've been able to pretty much double that, year over year. And so that's been absolutely powerful. And that's basically through this strategy of putting the right product, giving the right product to the right person at the right time.
Yep.
And using automation to do that. So you're not going crazy in your head with 500,000 people trying to figure out what they want, what they need.
Yes.
But you are systematically providing that, which adds more value to them, which makes them want to open more of your emails, which gives you a bigger opportunity to stay top of mind and generate sales. And so, it's been an amazing ride. I think we're just getting started.
Absolutely.
We're super grateful for all of the work that we were able to do with you. You're like a Jedi in the world of automation, and the sky's the limit now. So it's really, now that you have a machine, a system, it's like, now what are the tweaks that we can make to see impact, and that's what we're excited about working on in the future. So
I love it, man. I love it. Well, this podcast, of course, was just as enjoyable recording as any of our time together, man. Any of our time together. So I appreciate it. I would be remiss without allowing our listeners to at least know where can they go to find out more about GiddyUp, experience some of the innovative products that you guys have to offer. Where can they go, Eric?
Yeah. So our the GiddyUp site is GiddyUp.io. There's a lot. We just did a whole new brand and a lot of really cool information there that you can kind of sink your teeth into, whether you're a brand or a marketer. And then My Daily Discovery, it's new. We're growing it. It's also a new brand that we're kind of launching in this space. And you can see a lot of the cool products that we have there, which are all from real brands who are, on a mission to help improve people's lives. And they have great founders, great stories, and they do what they say. And so it's an incredible community to be a part of. So I definitely highly recommend you go and check that out. And if you want to connect with me, best place is usually on LinkedIn. So hit me up, and I look forward to, chatting with you guys. And if I can be helpful at all, just let me know, and I'm down to help out. So
great. Well, I appreciate it. As always, everybody, those links will be in the show notes in case your thumbs weren't fast enough on your mobile phone right now. So they'll be in the show notes, so you can just click away. Eric, thank you, man. Thank you. This has been great. Glad to have you on the podcast. And overall, man, just glad to know you. Send my thanks, warm welcomes, and I miss you to Topher and Leo. That was the trio, man, that really that got everything kickstarted. So I'm eternally grateful for the opportunity, man. And thank you again for coming on to the podcast.
Thanks, man. Likewise.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the All Systems Go podcast. We just peeled back the curtain just a bit at when you combine a co-founder, a visionary who's willing to invest not only in the people, but all of the resources those people may need, invest in finding the right people, the perfect person for the position, and not holding back. Eric swung for the fences. And when I saw him swing, I wanted to get behind and support that. And collectively, not just myself and Eric, but the entire team, we were able to produce massive results. For a lot of people in e-commerce, success with automation eludes them. So some of the keys that I want to just highlight really quick is you want to make sure you have proper planning in place. You want to make sure that you have vision casting. So someone needs to cast the vision quarterly, annually, whatever the case may be. Then you need to take that down and to break it into a plan that you can start to see the role that automation plays. Okay. And this goes across all businesses, but specifically to e-commerce. You really have to have a strategy for your customers. And that strategy needs to be stronger than the strategy for your leads. Okay. This podcast is exemplary of marketing to customers only. And the results that we were able to achieve were amazing. So just a few more pointers. I know we dropped a lot in the episode, but I don't want you to leave without that because I see there's a wave of e-commerce happening right now in the industry. So I want you all to be able to understand what it's going to take to leverage automation in a way that's going to scale your business and increase your profitability and the lifetime customer value of every customer that you're paying to acquire. All right. So share this with anybody who owns an e-commerce website. If you're confused in any capacity, just think of it this way. Do they use WooCommerce, Shopify, BigCommerce, Magento? Those are the real heavy hitters. But mostly you're going to hear Shopify. So if you've heard them say that, share this podcast with them. Simple. If somebody has said, I use Shopify, I'm looking into Shopify, I use WooCommerce. Oh, we use BigCommerce. Oh, we sell online. Dare I throw Volusion in there? Okay. Anybody selling products online, make sure you share this podcast with them and make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure that you subscribe and you leave a 5-star rating and review. For those of my first time listeners, this is my invitation. I promised you at the top. Here's the invitation. Come on, join the family of listeners, small business owners who are dedicated to equipping themselves with all that is needed to grow your business responsibly online in an automated fashion, because we're dedicated at Automation Bridge to training digital marketing professionals to become automation service providers so that we can meet these small business needs of deploying automated marketing and sales systems in their business for rapid growth. But it takes someone that understands marketing strategy in the marketing and sales technology terrain, how to put those together and make systems. So we've made it easy for you, everybody. If you're like, hey, I want to be an automation service provider. Hey, I want to find out more. We've made it easy for you to get everything that you need. If you go to allsystemsgopodcast.com, you get access not just to the latest episodes. You'll get access to view our automation packages. Okay. And these packages are catered to helping you put automated marketing and sales systems in your business over the next 6 months. We have a free Facebook group that you can get access to. You can also request to be a guest or refer someone to be a guest on the podcast. And any resource or training we mention on the podcast, it's all there for simplification purposes. One URL gets you access to it all. And that's allsystemsgopodcast.com. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. And until next time, I see you online. Automate responsibly, my friends.